So I'm going to invite Arliss to come back for centering time of meditation. Thank you, Arliss.
So for this centering time of meditation, we'll do a visualization. So if it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to take a relaxed posture. And as you take a deep breath in and let it out, go ahead and close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you as well. I invite you to allow your shoulders to drop. Allow your hands to unclench. Allow your jaw to release. Imagine yourself on a beautiful beach. Perfect weather. You have the perfect amount of shade. And you can see the ocean moving in with the waves and moving out with the waves. And as the waves come to you, I invite you to visualize that which you would like to bring more into your being. Maybe a sense of love, a sense of peace, a sense of gratitude. It may be a feeling of taking into yourself that which would serve you most, knowing that each wave brings a divine gift from God. And as you visualize those waves, and as you see them rolling back out into the ocean, I invite you to release out into the ocean that which no longer serves you. That which you're ready to let go of. That which you have thanked and blessed and are ready to release. Participating in that ebb and flow of acceptance and release that is such a natural process in the divine. Taking one more moment to be in that beautiful environment of the ocean and the beach, thanking the divine for everything that it brought to you, and thanking the divine for everything it accepted from you that you are ready to release. In that last moment, I invite you to come back to the sound of my voice, gently allowing yourself to come back to the here and now, allowing yourself to start to wiggle your fingers and toes, taking a deep breath in, and as you release it, opening your eyes. Thank you.
Now, continuing our February theme from me to we, it's my pleasure to welcome Reverend Libby O'Day with her talk entitled, Love is All There Is. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Libby.
Good morning, everyone. Well, this morning we are concluding a month-long series of talks from me to we. And it was all about love. It's kind of traditional, isn't it? That February is the love month and we talk about love. Well, today as the concluding talk, I want to talk about the highest love. It's sometimes called agape. And in Hinduism, it's called bhakti. So it's that love that is love of the divine. It is that love of source. It is that recognizing that love is all we are, that is the essence of our beingness. And sometimes that's hard to get in contact with. And we do meditations and we do prayer work and we hang out with other people in our lives, and we want to make the principle of love first and foremost. But there's something that can happen to us when we do spiritual practice, and sometimes absolutely accidentally, when we aren't intending it. There is an experience of being infused with the divine, and infused in such a way that we recognize that we are that essence of love. And you know, since this is a human experience of the reality of what life is, it's not just in our group that this happens. It's not just in Christianity that this happens. It has happened in all religions throughout time. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So I went to the farthest east, to China, where they have a great spiritual work called the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao Te Ching is this beautiful treatise that is left over, they believe, from Lao Tse, who was one of the greatest mystics to ever have lived, an illumined soul. And in verse 10 of the Tao Te Ching, it says, "Can you nurture your own spirit while holding on to the unity of oneness?" Can you nurture your own spirit while holding on to the awareness that we are one? Can you connect to the key, which is the essence of your being, the chi, the key? It's got different names and different backgrounds, but it means in a way the Holy Spirit. For those of us who are coming from the Christian denomination, that's what that key means. It's like that spirit that infuses everything. In Hinduism, sometimes they call it prana. Can you connect to the key of your sensitivity, your creative imagination and determination while harmonizing with Wu Wei? And Wu Wei is a beautiful concept. It means that natural flow of life that is innocent and without an agenda. It's when, have you ever been in the flow? You know, like when you're in the flow in life and things are just going along so well beyond your intention, that's Wu Wei. And can you understand that your human-centered mind, your Tao-centered mind, which means being one with the way of life, and can you do all this while loving and nourishing yourself, rather than indulging your self-interest and selfishness? When you can, then you can truly love all people without harming yourself, allowing others to rise to their fullest height while not diminishing your own stature. So this is it, isn't it? Being able to recognize our oneness and yet not lose ourselves in it. Being able to love ourselves without it turning into self-indulgence or selfishness. Profound teaching for us from the Tao Te Ching about love, and love being the nature of life itself. Then we come to John in the Bible, John 4:16 to be exact. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them. God is love. God is love. So that means when we're feeling love, when we're experiencing love, because some people say that this level of love is beyond feeling. It's not a sentiment. It's not a feeling. It's almost like the presence of God is within us at that moment so strongly. We recognize that love is the energy of the universe. So God is love. And then we come to the Bhagavad Gita, which is the classic scripture of Hinduism. And the message is so clear that love is the truth. Love is the supreme reality. Love is the essence of every being. Love is a fundamental part of the divine nature. And that divine nature is called Brahman when it is in the most formless, all-encompassing aspect. And it is the source of existence and the embodiment of infinite love. Now let's go to our Hawaiian ideas. This is the land of aloha. Aloha is love itself. Imagine living in aloha. A lot of us have a bumper sticker that says practice aloha. And it's to help us while we're driving, to remember to be forgiving and loving, and to make the way available for others. And if you practice aloha for a while, you begin to experience that each letter stands for a deep divine principle. And one of those letters is the L in aloha, and it stands for lokahi, which I believe means humility. Now I want to talk about humility for a moment, because I've discovered in my old age that it is the greatest virtue there is. The very greatest virtue there is. When we get infused with love, it humbles us. This isn't a lack of self-esteem. This doesn't mean I'm less than, but have you ever had someone gift you out of the love of their heart something that you felt humbled by? And have you ever had somebody, when you've done something wrong and perhaps even harmed them, deeply forgive you and tell you they love you? It is humbling. Not in a negative way, but in a way that breaks your heart open. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, talks about that, being broken open to love and having our heart wide open. And I believe that's what humility does for us. When we become aware of our oneness with all that is, it doesn't puff us up. Well, it can puff us up, but ultimately it leads to this very profound awareness that we are equal to everything. We are equal to each other. You are the same as I am. I am the same as you are. Wisdom infuses you just as it infuses me, maybe in different degrees and in different ways, but each of us is equal. And we can make this a practice. The practice of humility is recognizing our equality. So I was challenged many years ago in a seminar by a fellow who I thought was a great master in a lot of ways. And the practice was, in this seminar, we were to go up to different things and spend a moment with them and say, I am equal to you, you are equal to me, and stand there in relationship until we felt it. And so I remember there was a fake plant, you know, one of those plastic plants, like a big palm tree right there. And I turned around and I'm confronted with that. And I wanted to go, no, not that. Oh yeah, that too. So I'm equal to you and you are equal to me. And you know, an incredible thing happened. I began to feel that every atom that was infusing every piece of that plastic plant was the same as the atoms in my body. And we were actually exchanging energy with each other. all the time. This is always going on. And so this oneness is profound. And then it's easy when I turned away from that and I was finished with that, there was a person in front of me. And in a way, you'd think that'd be easier, but in another way, it's more challenging. Because our mind is set up to always be making comparisons, isn't it? Comparison and contrast. It's a necessary part of our mind, but sometimes it's important not to bypass it, but to go over the top of it. To go over the top and get that bird's eye view. And so when I was there next to that person, I just opened to that person may have greater gifts than I have in some areas. I may have greater gifts than they have in some areas, but we are equal. We are profoundly equal. We were all born into this human life. We are all living in this human body-mind complex. We are all souls that are journeying back home, as it were, to the source itself. And so we're all equal. And these are great teachings, but sometimes we want to know, well, if God is all there is, and this great oneness is the truth of our being, and love is the essence of who we are, can we practice that? Can you live as a person like that? Can you have a job and a family and take care of business? Well, there's a great minister in the Unity denomination named Jim Rosemurgy, who wrote a book called Even Mystics Have to Pay the Bills. And so this is a fun thing to think about, but there have been great illumined souls that we can look to, and we can know that this is a human experience that we can aspire to, and we can have this experience too. And so I'm going to name a few of them for you and see if you don't recognize them. Oh, yeah, I've heard of them. Saint Teresa of Avila. Saint Teresa of Avila. Great mystic. In fact, such a profound mystic that at our own Centers for Spiritual Living, Dr. Joan Stedman wrote a course, and it's a course you can take in our denomination, and it's called Practical Mysticism, teaching the lessons of becoming one with your essence. And then we look no further than the great poet Rumi. How many of you have ever read a Rumi poem? Profound teachings about love and relationship and spirit. And I love the fact that he calls spirit the friend. The friend. Imagine being so close to that source that you experience it as your intimate friend, your friend who's there for you. Love that. And then in the modern day, there have been many fabulous mystics born in the last 200 years from all diverse areas of life. And the first I'm going to remind you of is Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith. And his teachings are wonderful about the unity of all life and love, all religions being one path to God. He recognized that and praised that and brought forward a great sense of love that is infusing all. And then Sri Ramakrishna and his disciple Swami Vivekananda, who brought Hinduism to the United States in the 1890s, speaking at the World Parliament of Religions, letting us know that there is this great tradition that is filled. It's like a spiritual treasure house. And he brought that to us here in the West. And also in the 20th century, Ramana Maharshi. Look that one up. Google him if you haven't. Incredible teachings of an illumined soul. And Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta is somebody who is readily available on Facebook. There's actually a Nisargadatta page, which is filled with his teachings, and they've been turned into memes, and they're wonderful little phrases to grab onto about how we are one together and how this oneness is beyond our mental concepts. But one of my favorites is Meister Eckhart. And the phrase of Meister Eckhart's that I most love is the eye through which I see God is the same eye that God sees me with. Oh, and that cuts to the essence of it. That cuts to the essence of it. So how would we practice this in our own lives? What is one of the key ways we can practice getting into the space of this oneness and this love that unites us all and brings us all together? And we can look no further than right here in our own Hawaiian Islands with the practice of Ho'oponopono. Profound. When this teaching first came forward, I believe it was from an official at the prison in Honolulu. And this official, they had tried everything to try to rehabilitate folks. And they tried to rehabilitate folks everywhere, at every prison, I believe, with very limited results. So in desperation, this man, whose name I'm sorry I forget, presented the idea of Ho'oponopono, and here's how he started it. He went up to a prisoner and he said, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And then he said, thank you. I love you. And can you imagine what that must have felt like to a prisoner? Because if you have somehow transgressed in such a way that you end up incarcerated, there is a feeling of being less than, for sure, of shame, and probably very low self-esteem. And sometimes folks in that condition put up a real tough exterior, and inside they feel terrible. So to have an official, somebody in charge of them, above them, come to them and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Can you imagine what that felt like? I get chicken skin just thinking about it, because that's true love. And we can practice that. We can practice that in our families, but it takes humility. You can feel that, how it takes humility for us to approach others and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. But what a connection. And so I think that's the essence of it, is that that kind of love humbles us. And we are able to be open, and we are able to be equal, and we are able to be vulnerable. It's hard to be vulnerable if we have to defend ourselves. But when we are in love, when we are love, when we are coming from love, there's no need for defense. There's that equality. There's that ability to truly be transparent and to admit our mistakes, to say I'm sorry and really mean it, not sorry superficially. I've got grandkids that do that. I've got a particular grandson right now who's 5, and he's going through this thing where he likes to slap people. I know, it's pretty obnoxious. So he'll be playing along and all of a sudden he'll reach out and slap you. I'm like, what? And I look at that and he's laughing. He thinks this is hilarious. But it takes a certain humility inside of me not to get angry and say, you should never slap your grandmother. Instead, it's, that was hurtful, and let's not relate like that, you know, and then we move on from there. But it takes a certain humility to be transparent and open in that moment. And I notice that the behavior recedes. He wants attention. He wants to get a reaction. A lot of folks do. A lot of us do. And if we can be present with each other in those moments too, and be in the space of loving each other, then there's an innocence, there's a beauty, and there's a connection. And that's what happens with my grandson. Turns to me and said, "I'm sorry. I love you." Gives me a hug, that kind of thing. And that's what he wanted all along. That was the essence of what was going on there. So I just want to take a moment and let's guide ourselves in a little exercise. I'm going to invite you to sit back because now it's our time to practice this a little bit. How do we practice love? Where am I with love this morning? Where am I? So I'm going to invite you to sit back and you can soften your gaze so that your attention is more inside than outside. Or you can close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And take a deep breath and let it go. And just check in with your body, feeling into how you're feeling. You can move around a little bit if you're uncomfortable or if you feel anything tense. And bring to mind a time when you experienced love. Could be romantic love. It could be love of a child, love of a pet. Those beautiful little creatures that enter our lives. Bring to mind that love. And breathe it in and expand it in your heart. And imagine that that person, that being is right there in front of you. And allow your sense of love to expand. And imagine now that it is a bubble surrounding you of pure love. Pure love. And look out on your life in your imagination, in your mind's eye, with this eye of love. And say to yourself, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for judging you. I'm sorry for my harshness to you. Please forgive me. I haven't held you in the honor and the grace and the beauty that I truly am. Thank you. Thank you. Thanking our life. Thanking ourselves for having the courage to be alive at this time, to be here in the world, and to be living to the very best of our ability. Thank you, we say to ourselves. Thank you. And last, if you're so inclined, I invite you to put your arms around yourself now and just say, "I love you. I love you just the way that you are. I love you for all your qualities and gifts and for all your flaws and mistakes. I love you. Thank you." And so it is. So we can take this practice into our lives. We can make Ho'oponopono our very own. We can practice it whenever there's a conflict in our families or in our lives. And let's practice it first with ourselves, like the Tao Te Ching suggested. We really need to bring this love inside, because the truth of the matter is, if we can't love ourselves, we're never really going to love anyone else. And so this morning, as we open into that awareness that we are one with this infinite source, let's bring it home. I am that source too. That source created me. I am made out of that source. Some call us a drop in the ocean. Some religious and spiritual traditions talk about human experience being the drop in the ocean. I read a wonderful quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, wonderful Zen monk. And he said, "We are the entire ocean in a drop." I leave you with that.